Good day, everyone. This is Pineleaf Needles, and welcome to DDO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in DDO and here at DDO Players. And please welcome my co-host from Ravenloft, Dracula.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
And also welcome Bonnie Bew, who will be joining us this week.
Hello!
Hello there, and welcome back.
Yes, you had me back again, so I don't know.
What are we thinking?
Learn.
I don't know what we're thinking.
Well, we'll find out in a moment. But we'll begin with Update 29, the Codex War live stream preview. What is this all about?
On Friday, where Cordovan usually does his Fridays at 4, he had a special Update 29 preview with a few of the devs, Vargwheel, No Bob, No Worries, Knockback, and Steelstar. Joined him for a preview of the upcoming Update 29, which we now know the name of, and that is the Codex War.
The Codex Wars. Is that, I presume
Codex
then that
War.
there is going to be some involvement with books?
If you paid attention to the last two updates, the answer to that would be yes.
Yeah, there were
Ooh,
some pages.
Ooh, those codices.
So now it makes sense to
Yeah.
finally. It just clicked right there. I heard it. It was like, click.
Yes, it all ties together, and supposedly some of the story will be finished, but mysteries will be left open, I guess, from
Of
from what they
course.
said. And I
Wow.
went ahead and watched the whole live stream video, and I kind of did some highlights of it just to kind of let you know what we have in store. At about 1 minute and 37 seconds in, Knockback talks about the storyline for the pack. And then 2 minutes in, we get to see one of the first new quests that are going to be available in Update 29. And that one is called To Curse the Sky. And that is you're basically taking back a castle, and Cordovan called it a castle siege.
A castle siege.
And-
That would. We're going to have an. Wouldn't you need about a quintuple raid to besiege a castle?
Well, in DDO, we're awesome and we do it by ourselves.
Okay, that's right.
And what
People
was
can do.
interesting about this is we now have blue slots now.
Ooh.
Oh,
got blue ones
those are my
now.
favorites.
Yeah,
Blue
so
ones are the best. Blue slots are best slots. They're the best.
A blue slot is a good slot, huh?
hmm
Then at 6:21, we have a spoiler that I won't mention here for people that have
Yeah,
not
don't mention spoilers.
watched the video or don't want to
I haven't watched any of the videos.
know
and stuff. The
anything.
only thing I've looked at is gear. So
see one of the bosses that are coming back, and I was very excited to see who this was. That's all I'll say. Then
well, that probably means it's Melissa.
maybe.
Probably means it's the chicken fish nets.
maybe. Why would you say that?
No reason. No reason.
Then we also see another new quest, which is called Creeping Death, and that was designed by No Bob, and he talked about it a little bit. And I just thought it was funny because it's nice to see them still keeping with their metal naming theme for Quest. Metallica fans, you'll know what I'm talking about. Then, of course, we finally get our look at the Legendary Hound and Tempest. They talked about that. They talked about the loot for the Legendary raids. Legendary Shroud got a lot of talk,
And they actually showed some of that, and they showed how it was different than the normal Shroud. There is a lot, most of it is the same, but there's a lot different about it. And there's one major big thing that they kind of spoil in this video,
Oops.
and it's like
Oh my god.
really different. So warning,
I'm so scared.
warning for those that don't want to be spoiled. You might want to skip about between 13 and about 16 minutes into the video if you don't want to be spoiled on anything Legendary Shroud. And then they did talk about more of Legendary Green Steel.
level 30 talk, and then they talked a lot about random loot. So it was a pretty good overview video with the devs. It's always good to see them doing this. So it's up on YouTube now if you want to watch it.
All right, then. Anything else you want to add before we go on?
Nope. That's about it.
Then we'll discuss a post by Severlin concerning about Buddy Bonus XP and why it is set up as events rather than as a permanent thing. And Severlin posted 3 responses on this matter. And since we have 3 people here, we'll take turns at it. So I'll begin with events and bonuses designed to encourage grouping are much more effective if they are designed to funnel players into concurrent times. In other words, one reason this tends to be effective is because of the limited nature of the event encourages many players to be seeking out group content at the same time. If it were always on, you wouldn't see the same level of urgency, and that would make it much less effective.
Okay, and let me just clarify one thing that you said. Actually, this post was by somebody else, and Severlin chimed in on the post.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, you linked to Severlin's post.
Right,
And we're reading from Severlin's post.
Right. The actual question in the post was, can the Buddy XP weekends be here to stay? The poster that posted it was Peter the Jerk. That's the name of the forums. Not saying anything about Peter, just saying his forum name.
Oh my god, I'm like, haters gonna hate.
But it's a name like that.
Yeah.
But what, they've had 2 Buddy Bonus XP weekends so far, and they've been really popular.
Right, and that's kind of what he said. He liked it, and he thought it improves community. And of course, Severlin did 3 bullet points, as Pine Leaf said. The first one Pine Leaf read. And then Severlin also added, for a long time in DDO, players felt that grouping was required. We don't want to swing the pendulum too far so that players feel that grouping is required and that they are being penalized for playing solo. Having grouping events mitigates this issue.
And DDO couldn't absorb that much extra experience if it were constantly available. The bonus would need to be much smaller, and that would not be as exciting to players. And these weekends, I think, is what you get plus 10% bonus XP for each player over 1 in the party. So if you had like a 6-person party, that's 50% XP, and I think the rates are smaller for raids. But that's a lot of extra XP. So I'm totally behind the reasons he gives here.
Yeah,
why you can't have that all the time.
It makes sense because, that would be crazy to have. And I guess I totally agree with him that, as he said, it couldn't handle that much experience because that is a ton of his. I know the one Buddy weekend, I actually jumped into a pug for something, and I could not believe the amount of experience that I was getting. And it's insane at how fast you can level up this way.
We already have so many sources of bonus XP, and this is a huge one. If you are doing the grouping with a full party, it's a really nice juicy bonus on top of it. So I think it's a great thing for them to have in the stable of bonuses that they're kind of flipping through.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I would rather have is, instead of them having bonuses from Thursday to Monday morning, I would rather they extend longer. Like be Thursday through Tuesday or something like that. Just because not everybody has the same dates that they get to play the game. And so sometimes when these bonuses are on weekends, you don't get to take advantage of it because you've actually planned something that weekend, etc. So I wish there was a little bit more padding for weekdays. But here again, it's like you can't have it be your birthday every day.
Right. Well, but maybe every once in a while they could do one that maybe lasted a whole week or something like that too.
Yeah, I think that would be cool.
Yeah, not all the time though, but it's like, say, just...
I know the last time they had this particular bonus, I already had plans the weekend, so I didn't get to do it, and I was sad. But those are the breaks, I guess. That's what I get for doing anything other than play DDO.
How dare you have a real life?
I know. It's my punishment. I don't get to have the bonus because I didn't play DDO. But I agree with Severlin. There's wisdom in his answers.
All right, then let's go into raid runes. What are raid runes?
This is something new that's coming in Update 29 for the Legendary Raids. As it stands right now, when you do a raid, you start getting, for lack of a better term, check marks on your 20th list. And once you run a raid 20 times, you get a reward for doing so. Well, that's not going to happen in the Legendary Raids anymore. Instead, the raids are going to be dropping what they're calling raid runes. What it works is you are always going to get some runes in a chest for a raid unless it's being ransacked. And once again, this is only for the Legendary Raids. This will not... the older raids are going to stay the way they are. This is only for Legendary Raids. In the chest, once the raid is done, you will get some runes in that chest. The exact number is based on a die roll, though, so there is some variance in how many that will be in the chest. And you won't get any if the chest is ransacked. So remember that. They said you
It's
were.
kind of like part 2 mushrooms for part 2 of Typical Elemental Evil. The ones from the different nodes.
Oh, I didn't
'Cause
think about it like that, but yeah.
They're kind of like those, it sounds like. That you get a certain range, whether it's on normal, hard, or elite, but you don't always necessarily get the same number.
And the runes are bound to account, so you can run the raids on your alts and then pass the raids, the runes back and forth between your own characters. And then once you have enough of these runes, you can go talk to an NPC, and then that is where you will pick your reward instead of just doing a raid 20 times and automatically getting a reward. And some people, freaked out about this.
They did.
I'm not quite sure why people freaked so bad about this, but this thread just, blew up and went crazy.
I don't know about the freaking out part. Okay, so I had to think about it. I had to take a moment and think about the Codex runes and how I really felt about them in my heart. Because there are pros and cons to them. There really are. And I think the really bright side about Codex runes is that even with 20th completion list, there is an element of chance. So when you've done a raid 20 times, maybe you've gotten lucky and you've pulled some loot that you actually wanted over the course of doing those 20 raids. And then the 20th list, it's like this milestone. It's this magical time. It's a magical feeling. It really is like you're opening up a present because you put in this work to doing 20 of the raids, and then you get your 20th reward list, and it's special and shining, and there's glitter. And it lists usually a couple of the named items from that raid. And sometimes there's also tomes there, which can be a wonderful thing as well. But that list doesn't necessarily have every single named item from the raid. So you might get shafted. So there are people who, in the past, there have been some certain things that were really desirable named items from raids, like the Litany of the Damned from Abbott, or Torque of Prince Ryam II, or Sword of Shadows from the Vault of Night. And people did 20 and they didn't get what they wanted. They did 40, they still didn't get what they wanted. They did 60 and they still didn't get what they wanted. So having Codex runes saves those people. Because, you get a certain number and you can trade it in for the item that you want. So it takes out a little bit of that random number generator tyranny that some people apparently have problems with.
That sounds like it's made for Drac then.
Yes. So I think for people like Drac who have the RNG, want to stab him all the time, he can actually get what he's looking for. And the other thing too is if you have multiple characters, you can do the raid on your strongest characters, and the ones that maybe don't get played so often, you can pass over some of these Codex runes to them, and then they can get an item that would be suitable for them without having to do all of the heavy lifting. So that's a bit cool. But to me, there's also a downside to runes. And the downside is that they aren't passable in chess. I think this might be a thing. This might be a thing that's making people, I think, maybe making them a little bit crazy. I don't know. This is the part that I kind of clinch about out of the whole thing. Otherwise, I'm fine. I'm happy. Codex runes, great. That sounds wonderful. I wish they were passable in chess. I guess maybe they want to stop people from potentially multi-boxing in raids because there are some classic ones that people are so used to doing them. They'll maybe play one character and then they'll park a couple other ones in there, and then they'll pass all of their stuff to their main character. Maybe that happens. Maybe that's why they're doing it. I don't know. But since every single choice in designing Legendary Greensteel that is different from Heroic Greensteel seems to be targeted towards improving kind of the in-game rating scene and making people do more than just 20 speed runs of it and then they're done, I think that making the runes impassable or not passable between players is kind of overkill. Number one, a raid has to be fun. And its success needs to rely on the raiding party's actual skill and not on whether or not there was lag. And so if you can make players jump through more hoops to get their Codex runes and take a longer time to do it, but ultimately the raid has to be fun. and lag-free. And if those things are in place, then people are still probably going to be running that raid. That's why people still do shrouds. I mean, I still do shrouds even when I don't need shroud materials because I just like it. And, because I rarely need anything, I get to help newer players and pass them things that I no longer need. And by making runes something that I can't pass at raids, you take away the ability for any hardcore players or more veteran players. You prevent them from helping out more casual or new players. And that's why I don't like the non-passing aspect of runes.
And Gumsking in our chat is saying you can move the runes between your account characters, so there is no issue now with getting your raid timer reset due to a TR.
Yeah, because when you do a true reincarnation, all of your raid completions get reset to 0. So people would sometimes postpone reincarnating to get to that 20th, get their reward list and have their sweet, sweet loot before they reincarnate it. So yeah.
So I guess we'll see how this goes. And like I said, this is only for the new legendary raids. This will not affect any of the other raids in the game. So I guess we'll see what happens with it when 29 hits, whenever that might be.
But it kind of sounds like this is what in-game's going to be like. So if you like hanging out levels 28 to 30, this will be your life.
Now let's head into Movember, since that month is now over, and Team Turbine has posted their totals, and how did they do?
The 5-member team raised a total of $4,895. So
that's a lot of mustache.
It is a lot of mustaches for sure. And if you did donate to Cordovan himself, also known as Jerry, you should have got a message from him on the forum. If he knew your in-game name, he is sending out, if you got turbine points from his little incentives, or if you got a poll off of the community list, he is sending that out as well. So check your private messages on the forums if you donated to see if you won a prize for doing so.
We have issue 170 of the DDO Chronicle, and it looks like a chronoscope or something similar on the top there.
Mm-hmm.
And what else is in today's issue?
It looks like we are not the only fan site that is giving something away. DDO Gamer is also giving away a prize. They are giving away a Menace of the Underdark Standard Edition. Ooh. So click over the link there is in the community spotlight of the Chronicle. If you want to enter that, which DDO Gamer is giving away, and the link for our giveaway, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is also in the Chronicle as well. Other fan site news, the Damsels of DDO went back to the High Road. So click over and see their crazy adventures they had on the High Road. The Long Shot is asking, what makes a character stick? So click over and see thoughts about personalities for your characters and what makes you basically want to play your character. That was a pretty interesting read. So check that out. Mickey's Delirium puts together a new bow build. So if you are a ranger/archer type person, check that build out. And Dirty Williams runs permadeath in the Stormwall's mine. So click over and watch that. And that is about it for our our Chronicle this week.
And the screenshot looks like somebody is climbing towards the light.
The Ladder to Nowhere.
The Ladder to Nowhere.
That's in 3 Sparrow Cove, I think.
Cove?
I think so, yeah. I can't think the quest that's in.
I don't remember there being light, but
pretty sure that's
prove your work.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Ladders.
Yep, that's the one. Yeah,
heroic.
Where you have to jump.
I just don't remember those lights.
Yeah, I don't remember those lights being there either.
And this is the 250th of the DDO screenshots.
That's a lot of screenshots.
Wow! It's more than I've ever taken.
Now let's head into our store sales. What's on sale this week, Jack?
We have 35% off the heroic shroud ingredients, crafting storage upgrades, crafting experience elixirs, and the crafting success boosters. Also, throughout the month of December, they are doing specials every week. This week we have 35% off inventory space, 75% off your epic destinies, and 50% off the Key of Destiny and Constitution tomes. Our free sample of the week, which runs through the 17th, is a lasting potion of jumping plus 20, You will get 5 of those potions when you use the coupon code that is posted on our site because they're still doing the weird coupon codes.
And now let's head into our site news, and we'll begin with a conspiracy.
Ooh. It's such a conspiracy, I don't even know what it... Oh, now I know what you're talking about. Oh, see what I did there? Yes. Yeah, we teased this last week, and now the cat is out of the bag, as it were. We are giving away a Shadowfell Conspiracy Collector's Edition code. All you have to do is go over on our site, find this post, which is pretty easy to find because it's the one with an insane amount of responses. As of this recording, we're at 133 entries right now. And just
That's pretty snazzy.
leave a response. And this giveaway is thanks to listener Livmo, who contacted me on the forums and said he loved the show, loved what we're doing, and he had an extra code, and he wanted us to give it away. So thank you very much to Livmo for supplying our code.
Shadowfell Conspiracy, the Collector's Edition, not only do you get the Wayloon Prison quests and the Stormhorns quests, which come in heroic and epic content, you get like 1,000 turbine points. You get some of the iconic classes.
2,000 turbine points.
2,000? Oh my god!
2,000 turbine points.
And I think do you get the epic XP tome that?
Yes,
I can't remember.
You get a greater tome. Let's learn to talk. A
Greater
greater tome
term.
of epic learning, and you get one of those per server. And you also, as Bonnie said, you get the 3 iconics, which are the Shadar Kai, the Morning Lord, and the Purple Dragon Knight. And then you also get a +2 skill tome per character. So you get a lot of stuff for free.
You don't have Shadowfell Conspiracy. I say go for it.
All you got to do
enter their raffle.
Enter. That's right. And we will draw the winner. You have until December 22nd to enter. And then entries will close. I will go to random.org, pull a number out of the amount of responses we have, and then I will contact the winner, and hopefully they will get back with me. If not, I will keep pulling winners until one of them contacts me. So, as always on our contest, please make sure the email that you are using when you submit your comment is a real email that you check.
Be legit.
Because I would say I probably won't get around to it on the 22nd when the contest ends, but the 23rd, by at least the 23rd, I will be sending that email. So check your emails on the 23rd if you enter that contest. We're going to make somebody happy before Christmas.
Woohoo!
And then let's head into our poll for this week. And the question is, what are you most forward looking in? What are you looking forward to the most in Update 29?
See, it's not just me that can't talk, so I feel better. We have 60 total voters in our poll this week. And overwhelmingly at 45%, which equaled out to 27 votes, was the new random loot system. Legendary Green Steel came in with 15%. The Legendary Shroud only at 13%, which that shocks me. I figured the Shroud would be higher.
Wait a second. I'm like, I need to look at this again. I need to poll again. Can I vote again? Wait a second.
We talked about
this before the show. No, we talked about this before the show, but I am shocked at you people. I'm shocked at what came in first. I misunderstood. I thought the Legendary Green Steel came in first.
No,
But it's the new random loot system. People
like loot. Loot is good.
I know, and I know that the random loot system changes are supposed to be like make it more interesting now. But we've been waiting. I mean, I've been waiting. I don't know about anyone else, but I've been waiting for so long for like Legendary Harry and Legendary Green Steel. I cannot believe that those have less votes combined than the new random loot system. Well, I feel like I should go choke an owlbear or something.
Perhaps there's a possibility that there are a number of listeners here who are not up to levels yet where they could care about legendary stuff.
Dantel in the chat room is saying that the random loot affects every single quest.
Right.
But it's got to be good. It's got to be good random loot. I don't know. I'm not excited about random loot. Like, I guess 45% of the game playing population is.
But it looks like nobody cares about legendary hounds.
I don't care about legendary hound at all. I don't.
Apparently nobody did, because nobody voted for that, so you're not alone.
Compared to the other stuff, I don't care about. I mean, I care about legendary hound probably more than legendary tip of spine because I I have issues with Tempest Spine. I had a traumatic experience the first time I ran it, so I'm always more tentative about Tempest Spine. Yeah, I could have sworn that Legendary Greensteel or Legendary Shroud were going to be a shoo-in on this poll.
And I would agree with you. I thought they would be a lot higher than what they were, and I actually thought Shroud was going to come in number 1. So.
And I actually did vote for Legendary Shroud. That's what it's telling me, at least.
Of course.
So I get shock. I voted for Legendary Shroud. I guess that was a surprise. But yeah, random loot system. Oh my gosh. I just didn't expect that.
We had a few comments on this.
Yes.
Oh, what'd you say, finally?
I was just saying, so legendary loot system, that means that random loot system, yes, that means whenever you open up a chest, you get a random loot, right?
Yes.
Everybody will be running around playing loots. That is what Pineleaf wants. Okay.
Random loot.
Random loots. Gotcha.
All right.
Air guitar.
Kobe said, Legendary Greensteel hand wraps, of course. Oh, wait. Oops. Smiley face.
More about that later.
Yeah, exactly. Stay tuned later for that, folks.
Stay tuned for Bonnie ranting about stuff.
And DDO Central said, Legendary Shroud. The community has waited years for this raid.
Which is why I am surprised it was so low. I thought for sure Shroud was going to come in number 1. I was actually shocked. Normally, I don't get shocked at these polls because they usually go the way I think they're going to go, but not this one.
Yeah, I am shocked.
All right. And Drac, tell me, why are you looking at a beholder?
Well, you were with me. We were on a ship that we made out of beds and bookcases, and we got swallowed by a beholder.
Well, that's
a very big, giant, pink beholder.
Well, it had to be pretty big if he was going to swallow us.
And then he puked us out. Moral of the story, if you get swallowed by a beholder, you can force him to puke you out. Just saying.
It was really disgusting in there, I have to say.
Yeah, they did do a good job at making it kind of icky in there. I will give you that. If you have a screenshot you're proud of, you can send it to podcast@ddoplayers.com, and we might use your screenshot on the site. Because once again, you people are forced to look at my screenshots because I'm out of community screenshots that people send in. So if you're tired of looking at mine, send me some.
And now we have an announcement that you could join us this Wednesday live at 2 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time on our Mixer page, as we will have a chat with Cordovan and as many of the devs as we can round up. We will be talking about U29 and more. We will take as many questions as we can in the chat, and this show will also be released into our podcast and YouTube feeds afterwards.
That sounds exciting.
It should be fun, and I don't know which devs we're going to get. Cordovan is going to try to get us as many as we can.
But let's head into news beyond DDO. And it looks like the question about Ravenloft is becoming mistier and mistier.
I am getting sick of these teases. That I'm just going to flat out and say it. Stop teasing us with Ravenloft, Wizards of the Coast. I'm over it. There is a podcast called the Down with D&D podcast, and a writer for Wizards was on there. His name is Sean Merowin, and he did state on the podcast that he was writing at least one adventure that will be taking place for the next D&D Adventures League season. And he responded to a question that the podcast host asked about whether the next season was, quote, gothic in nature. And to that, Sean said, I can neither confirm nor deny that, although I've heard that there was much talk about a GameholeCon interview in which Chris Perkins had a lot to say. I think people who have heard that seminar know what's going on, but I still cannot say anything.
Oh my God.
So there you have it. And we talked about a couple weeks ago that Chris Perkins basically dangled Strahd and Ravenloft in front of us and then said, but we're not going to tell you anything about that. And then he went on, the podcast host said, oh yeah, like Dracula, Frankenstein, and Wolfman. I love those things. And then Mr. Merriwan said, you like that kind of stuff? I get a little misty-eyed about that myself.
Oh my God.
So just stop with the teases already. Just enough is enough.
It's like they have crafted everything to torture you, Drac.
Yes, they have. And then there was some talk about the upcoming adventure the epic adventure that's going to launch the upcoming season of the Adventure League, which we have also talked about. That's going to be taking place at Winter Fantasy in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And, of course, they had to tease there, too. Sean Merriwan said, if you're into D&D at all, and you're into the Adventure League specifically, you will not want to miss this. And the podcast host said, so I hear there may be blood and stakes involved? And Sean said, well, that's a definite possibility. So there you go. Take it for what it's worth. I still say Ravenloft is coming. It's happening, folks. But I guess we'll find out in Winter Fantasy is in February, and that's when we'll know, because that's when the new season of Adventure League kicks off, and that's when this whatever adventure it's going to be is going to happen. But I'm still saying it's Ravenloft.
You sound like me talking about gnomes for 6 years. So dreams can come true, Drac.
They can. We'll see.
Now, have you been dreaming about a dungeon crate to arrive in your mailbox on a monthly basis?
If you have, your prayers have been answered, Pinely.
Oh.
Yes.
Whoa, I had to read about this to figure out what is that?
Yeah, we were talking about this before the show, and Bonnie was all sorts of confused about this. What this is it's another crate monthly box, which, that, as I said in the article I wrote on this, it seems to be the rage right now. I think the most famous one, of course, is Loot Crate, and there's a crate for your pet. There's like a makeup one. There's a food one. Everybody seems to be doing the subscription box thing now. Well, there's a new one on the horizon, and it is called Dungeon Crate. It's going to be a monthly crate that will be launching soon. Sounds like early next year. You can head over and check out the website now and sign up to be kept in the loop as to when it will. There's no pricing available at this time, but they did say they are thinking it's going to be between $15 and $20 a month, and that's about what all the other crates run you. So I sent an email to find out what exactly will be in the crates on a typical month, and the Dungeon Crate CEO, Wayne Brecky, replied to me and said the typical box will have about 6 items a month, and it will, give or take a few freebies, of course, include stuff like dice bags, t-shirts, brushes for mini paintings, game tokens, coins, miniatures, mini flats, terrain pieces, 3D furnishing for dungeon tiles, could be some RPG jewelry, some crafting and art supplies, maybe some fantasy art, and whatever else they can get their hands on.
That sounds like random generated loot, and 45% of the population is excited about that. So
it does, yeah. Hey, good tie-in there, Bunny.
Excited about Dungeon Crate Monthly.
And
I don't know. I think this is like a perfect opportunity for somebody to like send out mimics to everybody and take over the world. So I would be on my guard.
Oh my gosh, I did not even think about that. That is awesome. That is awesome, Bonnie.
Surprise!
Yeah. Imagine opening that box up. Yeah, we will be finding out more about this, and I am scheduling an interview with him in the near future. So we will play that on the show and find out more. But so if you're into that, and then he also said too in the email that in actually a follow-up email that he sent to me, they are also thinking about too, every one of these crates that comes out will also have a digital compendium to it. So you might get like a PDF module of some type, or you might get a game or something. It's just they're right now working with different companies trying to get product to supply these. So we'll see how it goes, but check out the website and sign up. Right now, you can just sign up for the email list, which is not going to cost you anything, and you can be kept in the loop. Find out more things, or stay tuned to us, and as soon as we find out, you will find out.
And speaking of information, Dragon Plus is now available on the PC. That's right, this little extra thing that I always forget about because I never go into my iPad to see if it's out there. It's now going to be available on the PC.
Well, now you can ignore it on your PC.
Yes.
Yeah,
I just saw the cover for the first C issue, and it was colorful.
It was very colorful and
exciting.
Very shiny and very blinky and
very shiny.
Yeah, I kind of checked this out on the PC, and I'm just going to be totally honest here. It doesn't look that good on a PC. And I did say that in the article about this. It was designed for a tablet or a phone, so it is designed to be a mobile app. And you can really tell that when you read it on the PC.
because I read last, I seen today there's a new issue of Dragon Plus that is out. And I looked at last month's issue on the PC, and then I looked at it on my iPad, and I much prefer to read it on the iPad. It is much more streamlined on the iPad. But I guess if you don't have an iPad or you don't have an Android device and you wanted to see Dragon Plus, now you can. And I did provide links to issue number 2, 3, and 4, which is up. And just before showtime, I saw issue number 5 was out, as Bonnie said. I'll be doing a post on that probably tomorrow. And I will supply a link to both the Android, Apple, and the PC version of it if you want to check it out.
My question is, what happened to issue 1?
I'm not sure why issue number 1 isn't on PC. I couldn't find it anywhere. So I don't know why they chose not to include that one.
It's hiding from us.
Conspiracy.
Let's head into the tabletop. True Dungeon Cogwin's Revenge game is released. Whatever that is.
It's a new game on iPad only that is patterned after the True Dungeon adventure that happened a couple of years ago. It was 2014's True Dungeon. It was the 2 modules that ran at Gen Con. It was the Golem Bane and the Flight of the Zephyr adventures. Now you can play those through on your iPad. And
check this out.
I watched the video. It looks pretty cool. I haven't downloaded it yet, but this really looks fun. And what it does is they take, if you've ever been to Gen Con and played True Dungeon, basically how it works is you're in a real life dungeon. And when you come up to a fight, there is a shuffleboard that is there, and you have a token. And you put your token down, and then you slide your token, and then that determines if you hit or miss or what happens depending on where it lands. And from the video for this, it looks like you actually do that in this game as well, because the board that you see in True Dungeon is actually there, and you slide the token. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to have to download this. And this is free, actually. So everybody can check it out. And like I said, I haven't actually played it myself, so I don't know if it's like one of those where you can only play it for so long and then you have to start buying stuff to continue playing. They didn't state that anywhere, so I'm going on the assumption that it is a totally free game to play. But
I have a huge grin just thinking about it. It sounds like something that's at least worth checking out.
Yeah, I would say definitely. I mean,
I'm intrigued.
Since it's free, download it, install it, check it out, and then if you don't like it, you're not out anything but bite your time.
Burn it with fire.
And then
who's publishing it?
It is it's not a company, it's a person by the name of Charles Jennings. He's the one that is publishing it, and he does have the true blessing from True Dungeon to do it because it is actually True Dungeon's name and tokens and everything are in there. So it was in conjunction
Maybe it was
with
a labor
True
of
Dungeon.
love or something.
So I will check this out. I just haven't had a chance to download it and play it, but the video, which I did link on the article on the site, looks pretty sweet if you watch the video. So I'm pretty excited to check this out. And as we said, it's free, so you might as well try it.
When we also have another Kickstarter announcement, Tales of Arcana role-playing card game, and this looks like it's based on one of those free-to-play or pay-to-win type RPGs.
Kind of, yeah. It is actually. That's kind of a good way to design it. Well, what it is it's designed to be a one-time single-session campaign. So you will randomly generate your character from your deck of cards, and then once you do that, everything else will be randomly generated for you with your cards in a matter of minutes. It looks interesting. I would like to see it. You can actually download it and play. You can get the rules. You can play a sample one-shot campaign right now for free. If you go over to the website, you can download that for free. This is on Kickstarter, so of course they are trying to raise money to actually get this released, and there, of course, comes with all of the standard, you donate so much, you get a copy of the game, and then you get extras and stuff like that. So it's something I'm going to kind of keep an eye on. It looks interesting. I like the fact that everything is done randomly, and so that really adds to the replayability of it, I think. Because no two games should ever be the same, because your character itself is even made randomly through your cards.
But of course, you know that the random number generator is going to give you the exact same game every time, right?
Yeah.
Probably for me.
And Magic the Gathering Puzzle Quest is now available on mobile devices.
Is there no end to Magic the Gathering? That is like the beast that will not die. It seems like every few months
What
it's like
kind of game is this?
it's like, oh look, something new from Magic is out. And this, okay, I have a problem with this. And the reason why I have a problem with this is they state this is the original Match 3 RPG. So what you do is it's kind of like Bejeweled. You can think of it that way. You're matching like
Yeah.
3 items and then, they go away. I'm not sure how Wizards can say this is the original Match 3 RPG when there's about 75 of them on the App Store right now.
Oh, I believe that Dungeon Quest was the original one, and that this is using the Dungeon Quest system.
Oh, okay. That
How
makes
is this
sense
an
then.
RPG?
Yeah, it's an RPG. I've played Puzzle Quest, the original Puzzle Quest, a little bit. And so you create a character, and after you create a character and you go out into the wild and you face your enemies, and the combat system is through this Match 3 Bejeweled system.
Right, and then you level up to that, and then each quote unquote monster that you kill, you get experience for, and then
Right.
you can level yourself up, or you can get equipment or get spells, and then you can also recruit allies to help you out. And there are tons of games like this, but now it makes sense why they say they're the original Match 3. I didn't realize they were using that engine, so that makes sense to me now.
Yeah, that's why they
Okay.
say Puzzle Quest in there, because Puzzle Quest is the
Okay, I guess I
engine
didn't.
that they're using.
I didn't tie two and two together there, but that makes sense. And this
So-
one is available for Apple and Android both, and we've linked both behind there. And once again, this is another free title to play. And you were saying, Bonnie?
I was just like thinking about they assimilated it like the Borg into wizards and stuff. All right.
Right. Let's then head on to
Nowhere to go from there,
There's nowhere.
Bonnie,
Where do we go
too.
from there?
It's
Way to bring
Bonnie's
the show
Vortex.
to a screeching
Woo!
halt, Bonnie. Way
All right.
to go.
Bonnie, have you anything I've heard rumors that you had a few things to say about the festival and legendary green steel.
I have so many words for you today. If you like words, you're in luck, because I got them.
If you could only see the show notes, folks, you would know she's not kidding.
I went to town, I bought some words, and then I came back from town and I threw them in the show notes. So, yeah, I'm going to talk about festivals, and then I'm going to talk about Legendary Green Steel. But when I talk about Legendary Green Steel, I'm going to talk about Heroic Green Steel and Legendary Green Steel, because I think you can't have one without having the other. They're very similar systems. So
And that's
we'll
good,
talk about
because Pine Leaf had Green Steel questions last week.
I know, and
And-
you guys are just getting to that point where you're actually can think about green steel, because you're at the level where you would run the quest where you get green steel stuff heroically. So the time is right to have this discussion about your first green steel. But first, I'm going to talk about Festival, because Festival is my favorite DDO event out of all the DDO events. I'm sick of Crystal Cove, Rizia Ice Games. Forget about it. I don't even know what that egg thing is that happens in the springtime. I live for Festival. It's my favorite, absolutely favorite DDO event. One reason why I like it, really the main reason why I like it, is it's very passive. I don't have to do anything. I just do quests in Eberron, and I get coins in every test. And I'm like, woohoo! I'm just playing the game, which is what I would have done anyhow, and I'm getting, the coins for it that I need for this event. So that's great, because I don't always like farming stuff. Things like the Night Revels lead you to, farming for chocolates and stuff like that, and that leads to poor choices, which I'll get into later in the show. Poor choices. But you get to quest like normal in Eberron. You get coins, and then later on, a cheerful dwarf garbed in red named the Jester shows up all over Stormreach. I think people usually go to meet him in the harbor because it's really easy to get to him, where he stands in the harbor on top of the leaky dinghy.
That's where I always go.
But-
Just climb the ladder, and there he is.
Yeah, but the thing is, there are jesters all over Stormreach. There's one in House K, there's one in House Denith, there's one in House Fairland, I can't say it, okay? I have it typed out, phonetically, and I still can't say it.
I just
In
don't
House
say
J.
House P. It's
They
easier.
all have jesters during Festival, but usually it involves jumping, and a lot of profanity and jumping and profanity, and then you get to where the jester is and you trade in your coins. I think that's part of the fun, is jumping to like all the funky jesters and where they are. So that's just part of it for me. But you trade your coins with a jester, and he gives you goodies. All kinds of cookies and jellies and cakes that cast different buffs and spells. And I love festival cookies so much, mainly because I reincarnate a lot, and there's nothing like festival cookies to turn you into like a god on Korthos. You can you become overpowered, or I don't know, you overperform when you can take all of these cookie buffs in the single digit levels. And it's just wonderful. They can do things like give you extra charges of Death Ward. You can get an extra purple crystal when you do challenges. Maybe there's like some shocking weapons cookies that you can use as a tweak. And then, of course, all kinds of spell cookies. And I'm going to say that like last year, I was flagging, during Shroud Palooza when I was preparing a whole bunch of characters, I was flagging a character on a new server for Caught in the Web. And I was in the quest Reclaiming the Rift before it was fixed. And before it was fixed, there was this one spot where you would have some monsters up on a ledge, and they wouldn't drop down. So you had to have something ranged to kill those monsters or spells or something. And I was a melee. I'd forgotten any ranged weapon, and I was sitting here like, oh, crap. What am I going to do? I took out all my cookies that had spells, and I was like casting all these cookie spells on them, and I finally killed them dead and won, and I got to finish the quest. So yay, thanks to festivals.
Kill them with a cookie.
Kill them with cookies.
Kill them with
Another thing that's really cool about the Festival Cookies and Treat is their effects can change every year. The planes of Eberron are constantly in motion, and each festival, some become coterminous with our material plane, and some lose alignment. So one year you might have a Marilith cookie that casts Blade Barrier, and the next year it casts Burning Blood because the planes have shifted. So some of the cookies, not all of them, but some of the cookies will change what effect they have this year. And it hasn't been announced yet, but I know that Jerry has power over it. And I'm sure it will be something awesome. Fingers crossed. Now, unfortunately, everything cannot be cake and rainbows all the time. Even the festival jester is prey to the random number generator. So sometimes you trade in your hard-earned coins and you get crap. Like a lump of coal, probably because you were bad and you killed a bunch of dwarves. You might get like a dwarven thrower weapon because it's a very pro-dwarf holiday. Or you could get a twig, which theoretically can be transformed into a magical cold wand during the later event Rizia Ice Games. But screw that. You got a twig, and obviously DDO hates you. The random loot list is a little bit out of date. It like dates back for about 5-6 years from the random things you can get from festival coin turn-ins other than cookies and cakes and jellies. Like the best things are probably Sunblades, which is a level 6 short sword that's nice. And the only other way to get a Sunblade is to either buy it off the auction house or be level 18 and go into the subterranean. So when you're low level, your best chance of getting a Sunblade is turning in your festival coins. Sometimes you can also really rarely get a +4 ability tome or a heroic green steel blank weapon. So yay festivals! I just hope I don't get a whole bunch of dwarven throwers and coal again this year, because I kind of got a lot last year.
I have to say, though, that it certainly does a number on your inventory. All those cookies.
Yes.
Cookie jar.
That's why
cookie jar.
They sell cookie jars in the store, and I think it's worth it. If you have a lot of coins, and I always toss out all the coal and the twigs. There's no use for that stuff.
Okay, then what about green steel?
Wow, I talked a lot, didn't I?
Never.
Taking a little drink because I just talked myself. Okay, now for the second just wave of talking. Let's talk about green steel crafting. I'm so excited. I love green steel so much. Okay, so Legendary Green Steel is coming along with the Epic Veil of Twilight in Update 29. And I've tried to remain pretty spoiler-free for Update 29, so I haven't checked out Lemania to see exactly how any of these quests are or exactly what the Legendary Shroud is like. But I did read Barguia's forum post about Legendary Green Steel, so I could compare and contrast it with the heroic and epic versions of this year. So I'm going to start by talking about the heroic. So we can kind of like point out how is Legendary Green Steel going to be different from the heroic system. Now, the quests and the raid of Heroic Veil of Twilight, which introduced Green Steel, are base level 16 and 17. You can also do some other quests around Shavarath, the older ones, not the newest packs that were released, like Trials of the Archons. That doesn't give you anything having to do with green steel. Or you can also do Devil's Assault on epic difficulties, and that will give you some ingredients potentially, which will help you craft green steel weapons and items. You can make pretty much any type of green steel weapon except hand wraps. All right, and
Why
green
no
steel
hand
weapons.
wraps?
Because reasons. Hand wraps are coded. Hand wraps are coded differently than all the other weapons in the game. They're treated more like effects, the way I understand it. Effects that are applied to the player, and not like an actual weapon they have equipped. So that somehow has some kind of cats and dogs sleeping together problem with implementing some kind of green steel crafting system for hand wraps.
So
because
what about
they would need to actually treat it like a weapon.
What about docents?
Armor is not green steel. So there's no
okay.
armor. I skipped that part. No armor. Okay. You still have to get your Thunderforged armor if you want something really fancy. Or you have to get some randomly generated loot, which apparently 45% of the population is excited about.
You're never going to let that go, are you?
I'm never going to let it go now. Now that it's sunk in, I'm not letting it go. So you can make heroic green steel weapons are base level 12, and you can make any type except for the hand wraps. Hand wraps, no love. Heroic green steel items are base level 11, and you can make pretty much any slot except for armor, as Pine Leaf has now pointed out, trinkets, or rings. So none of those can be made. But you can make all the other stuff like bracers and boots and helmets and belts, and necklaces and cloaks. And, I just named all of the different item types. So you can make those in green steel. Now, heroic green steel has 3 tiers of effects, maximum that you can make. And then depending on the 3 tiers of effects that you add to your green steel item, you might get a 4th extra effect that is usually a clicky type of thing, like maybe displacement or summon an earth elemental or raise dead, that kind of stuff. So the fact that these things that you craft for heroic green steel are minimum level 11 and 12 make green steel something that's really, really popular with people who do true or iconic reincarnation. Because it means that as soon as you hit level 11, 12, or as soon as you do your iconic reincarnation, you've got this snazzy gear that is basically overperforming better than anything else that's out there at that level, and you can just rule the world and level up your character quickly. It's also, though, and this is what makes green steel so wonderful, is because of those additional effects that you can get, like displacement clickies and raise dead clickies, it still gives people who are level 28 characters a reason to make heroic green steel, because you can never have too many displacement clickies. Now, some of the effects that green steel items can have include stuff like hit point boosts, spell point boosts. You can get skill boosts, different types of damage absorption, different types of damage bursts and guards. And then there's one type of heroic green steel that allows you to regain your spell points back when you're hit in combat. That's called existential stalemate, or a concordant opposition weapon or item. So that's the one type I'm going to say ahead that I don't think there is an equivalent of in legendary green steel. But all the other things do appear in legendary green steel. Finally, the very last thing I'm going to note about heroic green steel is it involves a ton of ingredients. A ton. Like, you think you have ingredients just from collecting, essences and stuff for crafting from different quests, but once you get, the ingredients from the Veil quest and you get ingredients from the Shroud, you're just going to be overwhelmed and in crazy town about what do I do with all of these ingredients.
3 words. Chipmunk funk.
Yes, chipmunk funk. So the Veil quests give you favor with the 12, and favor with the 12 rewards you with ingredient bags. This is not a coincidence. This is perfectly orchestrated to give you some place to stick all this crap for green steel that you're going to be picking up when you do these Veil quests and when you do the Shroud. To make green steel, you're spending quality time collecting various sizes of devil scales, stones, shrapnel, arrowheads, bones, and chains. Plus, the base items can be made out of fun things like glistening pebbles, horns, lily petals, locust husks, greenbrier twigs, bitter scrub fungus, and the ever-popular Chipmunk Funk. Don't ask me how you can scrunch together a locust husk, chipmunk funk, glistening pebbles, and bitter scrub fungus in an altar and make a wondrous jewel out of this crap, but that is the magical duct tape world of green steel. You take all this junk, like scales and chains and rocks, and you fuse them together, and somehow magically they become a weapon or they become armor. And just don't question the physics of it because it seems a little weird to me. There's got to be magical duct tape involved somehow.
Well, there won't be. I think you said it didn't go into armor.
It doesn't go into armor. Did I just say armor again?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't mean to. I lied. It doesn't go into armor. It goes into altar. Maybe I said armor instead of altar. There's a lot of altars involved too, where you crunch down things and make it into like a different type of magical ingredient. Then you crunch those ingredients together and you add in another item like a shard, and then it makes this magically imbued shard. And then you apply the shard to like your base weapon or your base item, and then you have this fancy thing, this fancy green steel item. So there's a lot of crunching of ingredients. There's tons of ingredients. There's tons of magical duct tape that we never get to actually see, but it's got to be there because otherwise it makes no sense how you put a twig and chipmunk funk together and make a sword out of it. So that's heroic green steel. And I have one more thing because I said I had one more thing to do, but I have yet another one more thing to talk about heroic green steel. For the most part, heroic green steel ingredients are unbound. Even weapons and items, once you craft them, are bound to character on equip, so you can make this stuff, or you can get these ingredients, and you can hand them over to your friends or hand them to your other characters. You can mail it to people and stuff. You can put it up on the auction house and sell stuff off and maybe get a little bit of platinum. This doesn't mean that you can just buy heroic green steel outright without doing the content. You need to pull, there are a couple bound to character items that you need, some different shards, to finally fuse all of the other ingredients to your weapon or your item. But everything else isn't bound. So you have certain things that are required that are bound to character, like a very small subset that you have to have in order to make the green steel. But everything else is unbound and tradable. And so for a long time, it made the in-game kind of economy kind of popular, trading and selling green steel ingredients. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is it's going to be different with Legendary Green Steel. All right. So I've talked about heroic green steel a lot, thrown a lot of words at it. All right. But now I'm going to talk about Legendary Green Steel specifically and how it differs from heroic green steel. With broad strokes, Legendary Green Steel works pretty much exactly like heroic, except for where it doesn't. Legendary Green Steel is minimum level 26. So while that doesn't give you mileage for the full range of epic levels, which would have been the craziest thing in the universe and what I was kind of secretly dreaming of, it does mean that once you get to start using it level 26, and once the level cap is 30, that's going to be millions and millions of experience pieces that you have to earn that you can use this equipment for before you get to the cap. So I'm glad that they put the minimum level at 26. My biggest fear, the worst case scenario, was going to be that the minimum level of this gear was going to be 30, and I was just going to cry if that happened. So level 26 is something that I can live with, and I think it covers a nice range of playtime where you can use this gear. There are still no Legendary Green Steel hand wraps, trinkets, or rings. That's right, no hand wraps. Monks, kobolds still hate you. Kobolds still remember waterworks. Some far-off day, long after Nomageddon has laid waste to the fields of the Cerulean Hills, Turbine will fix hand wraps, and the people who punch things in the face will once again know what it feels like to experience joy. But for now, your lives suck, all right? So if you're running around Dungeons & Dragons online and you see a pure monk, emote them a hug because they need to feel loved by somebody because they're not feeling loved by Turbine right now, all right? I'm sorry about the hand wraps, guys. Well, I'm really sorry.
Do all monks use hand wraps, or do some use things like
sometimes they're stick builds. But, punching things in the face is fun, all right? And I know there are people who like doing it. They like doing all of their combinations and stuff and all their different, their water forms and all that business. And they like having their little sequence of keys and stuff. But they don't get to have all of the nice things. They don't get to have green steel weapons, and so I feel bad for them. But someday...
Dentel in the chat room
Someday.
has a question. He says, but there's also some kind of Tate thing too, like you can't have more than one.
Thing. And I'll talk about that.
Okay.
Both of them, both heroic and legendary green steel, they come with the taint of Shavarath. Now, this is actually a lore part of green steel, in that all of these little items that you put together, the chipmunk funk and the twigs and the scales and the chains and stuff like that, they're supposed to somehow be tied to Lamania or tied to Shavarath, the devil's battlefield. And they're things that have come in through the kind of split in the plains, and as the devils and demons are trying to invade Meridia during the 13th eclipse, they've brought along this crap with them, and you're allowed to make these green steel items and weapons, but they come kind of imbued with a curse of the ever-ending battles, carnage that has taken place between the devils, the demons, and the archons. So for heroic, we do have the 20th completion reward list. And something that is always on that 20th completion reward list for heroic items is an essence of cleansing. And you take it and you put that in an altar with your tainted item, and you can cleanse the curse off of your weapon or your item. Now, you can use one green steel weapon and one green steel item and have them equipped all the time, and the curse will not affect you. But once you go beyond that, and you start equipping multiple green steel items that have the taint of Shavarath, you start consistently taking damage because it is just too much like evil for any one body to bear. And you can literally kill yourself by wearing too much green steel. So that's why they have these essences of cleansing. And apparently one of the things that you can trade the Codex runes for is a legendary essence of cleansing to remove the legendary taint of Shavarath, I guess, off of legendary green steel. So that is the taint thing about where you can't have more than one. You can have one weapon, you can have one item. If you have two items on, you're in trouble. You don't want to do that. Or I think if you equip two weapons, you're pretty much screwed too. Actually, no, maybe that's not a problem. I'm going to say two weapons is not a problem because I've done that before. It's just two items with the taint or more. And you just start taking off damage. It just eats up your soul and you just start shriveling away. It's great, actually. If you've ever been a new player and you've done that to yourself and you don't realize why you keep dying, because way back in the day, I did that to myself. The first time I put on more than one green steel item and I didn't realize that that's what I was doing. And I started taking damage and I was like, oh my God, what's happening? And then I died. And then I got raised. I did the recall and release and raise yourself, but that's just to raise dead. So the green steel curse will instantly kill you again. So you basically have to be resurrected in order to survive wearing multiple green steel things at one time with the curse on it. And to be able to take off one of them, it's crazy sauce. So I guess it's good that we've had this talk about not killing yourself with green steel. Because it's the thing.
And you feel that this stuff is wonderful for what reason?
It is great. It's great. It's super cool.
The warlock in me says anything that eats your soul is awesome. So there you go.
I'm usually, I'm using
you got to remember,
weapons
I do a Phaylok.
Well, we don't hold that against you.
I'm usually just using weapons and clickies at this point. So, I'm spoiled a little bit, I guess, because and there's usually only one actual item. I'll wear goggles for hit points and Kongot maybe and the heroic stuff. So I usually don't have to worry about killing myself with green steel so much. But there's some people who have gone and created an entire set of equipment minus the armor, trinket, and rings out of green steel with all the fancy kind of guards and effects and extra damage absorptions and things that they can. And they had to worry about cleansing some of that stuff. And that's 20 completions on a heroic. And who knows how many, I don't know how many of the Codex runes that's going to take to cleanse an item. But usually when you've only got one or two items, you don't have to worry about it. So that's usually that's a rich people problem. That's I do too much shroud kind of problem. And because I do too much shroud, maybe I need to worry about that more, but hey. Now, Legendary Green Steel, like Heroic, it also has 3 tiers of effects, just like Heroic. And then it has a 4th level, which they're calling the active slot, that is equivalent to clicking effects in Heroic. In fact, some of the available active effects that I've seen listed are identical to Heroic Green Steel, such as displacement clickies. So the tier effects are inspired by Heroic Green Steel. It's just that they have tweaked them up to a level that is appropriate for a level 26 to 30 character. But it's the same kind of stuff, like bonus to abilities or bonus to skills or different types of damage bursts, damage absorption, hit points, spell points, that kind of stuff. So it's the exact same kind of effects. They're just much more powerful. Now, the thing that's different about these effects that you can slot on Legendary Green Steel, same number, same types, but they're using augments. And I guess I can kind of see why they're using augments. These augments are not interchangeable with the existing augments that we get, but they will go into the augment bag. So I guess now instead of getting a whole bunch of, you'll still get a whole bunch of ingredients like legendary devil scales and legendary stones and stuff, but you'll crunch them together and you'll make these legendary augments, and then you'll stick those in your augment bag until you decide to slot them on something. So that's a little bit different. The other thing about these augments is, unlike Heroic Green Steel, they are bound to account. So while you can help out your less played characters, Legendary Green Steel isn't going to have the economical auction house impact that Heroic does. So you can't help out your guildies and make them like a different kind of... You can't, share any of your legendary devil scales with them, and you can't make an augment for them and pass it along. You can only share it with characters on your own account. So even when the RNG hates your friends with burning fire, you can't help them. There's no sharing and caring with Legendary Green Steel. Whereas with Heroic Green Steel, there is sharing and caring. The other thing that's different about Legendary Green Steel is the chipmunk funk part of things has been thrown by the wayside. Apparently, there is no legendary magic duct tape in the world of Green Steel, much less legendary chipmunk funk. Instead, you're going to use Codex runes to get your base items. So you'll get the bound to account Codex runes by raiding. We do raids now. Raids are cool. And the end chests of the legendary versions of Shroud, Tempest Spine, and Hound of Zoriat will give you the Codex runes. The higher the difficulty of the raid, the more runes you get. And Heroic Shroud is kind of like that too, because the higher the difficulty of Heroic Shroud you do, the more end chests with ingredients you get. So that's still not that different. It's just the bound to account kind of nature and bound to character nature of certain things that is more strict with Legendary Green Steel than Heroic Steel. Now that's a lot of words, and that's a lot of stuff, and a lot of different concepts having to do with Green Steel, and I didn't even cover everything that I could possibly have talked about. Hopefully, my words have explained something about how Green Steel, both Heroic and Legendary, works. So, maybe somebody knows something now.
But are you excited for the Legendary
I'm
Green Steel?
excited! Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm excited, and I'm excited about Legendary Shroud, even though I've kept myself in a bubble of ignorance, no spoiler zone about what it's going to be like and what you do in the Legendary Shroud. And I do have high expectations because I love doing Shroud, the heroic version of the raid. It's just fun. I think it's a fun raid, so I don't mind do it tons and tons of times to get tons and tons of ingredients. And I'm just hoping, fingers crossed, that Legendary Shroud is fun so that I want to do it tons and tons of times and get tons and tons of ingredients and tons of Codex runes and live happily ever after.
Very well.
That's
Thank
all I
you,
got.
Bonnie, for your explanation on there. And let's head into our week in DDO, and what did we do? And I have a feeling Legendary Shroud is not one of them.
No.
Track, what were you up to?
I had the craziest, busiest week I've ever had in real life. So I didn't do hardly anything in game at all. The only thing that I did do was last week after the show, Saba Jade sent me a message, and she said, do you want to run Sane Asylum so we can try to get your trinket? Because last week I was talking about I wanted to try to get the Shard of Zariat trinket. So I hopped on right after the show last week, and we ran Sane Asylum twice, and on the second run, the Shard dropped.
Ooh.
So I now have that.
Ooh.
And that's pretty much all I did in game this week. That's kind of sad, actually. But I just had
I've had weeks like that.
Yeah, I had just a crazy busy week.
We'll go into what I did during the week. We did not have our usual session because of the crazy week Drac had. So all of my stuff was solo stuff. I was first my rogue, where I was going from levels 4 to 5. I did the waterworks where I did Ven's Trail. So I went to Clan Tunnel Worm and Ven's Fate. Then I ran the Seal of Chanticleer, so ran through that entire thing. And that, I think, went reasonably well. I don't think I remembered anything untoward happening in that particular run. Then on my Rogue / Warlock / Druid, I dusted that one off since the Rogue is finished in that particular series. And I went to the harbor and did Garrison's Missing Pack. So it was also a pretty light week for me. So, Bonnie, what were you up to?
It was a busy week. And this is the first busy week I've had in ages, because I think the whole month before, like November, I think was a set of weeks where all I did was roll daily dice. And that's all I did for a month. So last week was the first week in a while I've done a lot of quests. I mainly spent the week on Argo instead of my normal server, Cannith, because I needed to reincarnate one of my characters into a wolf so that I could join the Damsels of DDO wolf cult. Now, I know somebody else here on this podcast is also a member of the wolf cult.
Welcome aboard. Welcome.
We have wolves, and we're in a cult, and the damsels got us to get in the van. So that's what that is.
I'm
so
still waiting for the candy they promised.
I know. They always promise candy, and I never see it. But I somehow always
The candy is a lie?
The candy is a lie. But I get in the van every time.
I do too.
One day I will learn.
I just blindly follow them. I'm like, okay.
So I had two characters on Argo, and one of them was already at cap, and I could have reincarnated her, but I kind of like her. She's a dwarf swashbuckler, and I decided I didn't want to touch her. But that meant I had to get my character Primsy Pinkbottle from level 21 to 28 and get some, because I wanted to do an epic reincarnation. So I played a lot to make that happen.
I bet you did.
Between last Saturday and last Wednesday. And I got her to cap. I accidentally photobombed, I think, Gemini's stream on the DDO stream channel. And
that's awesome.
When you hit an LFM and you don't realize that it's the person who's streaming, and you get in there and belatedly realize that, like, oh crap, people can hear everything that I'm saying to these folks. And you're like, oh my god, did I say anything bad about anybody? Was I behaving? I don't know. But that happened, and I got to level 28, so I did an epic reincarnation, and then I did a heroic reincarnation to level 1. So I started out on Korthos, and I have leveled my wolf up to level 6. I'm almost level 7, so I have some work to do this week to get her furry butt at least level 18 before I travel for the holidays, and so I'll be ready for the wolf cult activities at the end of December. Oh, man. Okay, I also leveled Altonia, my character. It's one of my two favorite characters on Cannith, from level 16 to 17. And theoretically, I'm maybe doing some Veil of Twilight with her this week. Altonia is, yes, possibly.
Maybe.
So she's level 17 now, so she could do some Veil. But she is this horrible Blade Forge sorcerer build right now. I had this whim during the Night Revels that I wanted some sorcerer that just threw acid blasts and exploded all the dead things. And so I did this impulsive reincarnation to Altonia, my beloved barbarian. And now I'm crying into my eggnog because she sucks so bad. It's terrible.
Oh, no.
Epic.
Oops.
I don't even know how I'm going to get her to cap because she's Blade Forge, so I have to get her to level 28. So it's going to be horrible. Friends, don't let your friends reincarnate impulsively or reincarnate while they're drunk. That is my public service message today, brought to you by DDO players.
So you were drunk when you did that?
I wasn't drunk, but I was drunk
Allegedly.
on the Night Revels. I basically had event madness. And that's something when you decide that, like, oh my gosh, I have to do all this farming. I gotta farm all the stuff in Crystal Cove. I gotta farm all the stuff in Maybar, all of the mimics, or all of the stuff in the Night Revels and Dalara's Graveyard. And it gets to your head and you make poor choices. because of the urgency. And we're going way back to the beginning of the show when we talked about the urgency of a partying bonus weekend. This was the urgency of an event, and I made a poor choice to reincarnate one of my top characters into something crappy that was only suited for doing that event. And now I am living to regret it.
You're having reincarnation remorse.
Yes, reincarnation remorse. It's real.
Ooh,
So
well.
that was my week, and isn't that enough?
Yeah, that is quite an epic adventure. If you would like to support DDO players, you can go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. There you'll find rewards, including a mention on DDO Players News, or even be a guest host with us. And this week we have a featured comment from Moke Taskmaster, who left a comment on Magic the Gathering Puzzle Quest, now available on mobile devices. Well, happy to see they're supporting Android right off the get-go. Now just give me the darn Lords of Waterdeep and I won't covet the iPad.
And that is in reference to the Lords of Waterdeep game is only available on the iPad and not on Android devices. People have been clamoring for months to get that on Android, and so far WotC has only released it for Apple.
Or Android.
All right. And if you would like to send us an email, you could send it to podcast@ddoplayers.com. You could also follow us at Twitter, the Players Alliance, @PlayersAlly, DDO Players, @DDO Players, Draculetta, @Draculetta_72, Pineleaf, @PineleafNeedles, and where can they reach Bonnie Bew?
You can reach me on Twitter @BonnieBew. That's BonnieBew. Bew, the sound that lasers make.
I think you need to trademark that, Bonnie.
Yeah. The Players Alliance has 4 live shows. Every Monday at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have DDO Players News. Every other Thursday at 9 p.m., we have XP Quest. Every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have Locho Players News, but this week's episode of Locho's Players News will be on Friday instead of Saturday. And on every other Saturday after Locho Players News, we have Tales for the Free Folk, though that is going to be taking a little break of that and will be returning in January. You can join us for our live shows at ddoplayers.com/live. And remember to join us on Wednesday at 2 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time for our Update 29 chat with the devs. That is all for tonight, and this is Pineleaf Needles reminding you to quest responsibly.